Anyway, joining us now with the very latest on all of this, we have Gregg Jarrett is back with us, Fox News legal analyst, author of the best-selling book Witch Hunt, the greatest mass delusion in American political history. Look, I've been doing this, Greg, 31 years. I have never seen anything like this. But on the other hand, I want the Schiff show to continue because it shows how corrupt these people are. This is all they have done for 3 years. This is who they are. This defines them. This is a madness, a rage, a psychosis, you know, a bifurcation of the brain, a compartmentalization of your brain where you literally shut down any intelligent thought, honesty, reason, or common sense. What do you think?
You're absolutely right. And, Devin Nunes put it best when he asked rhetorically of Yovanovitch, I'm trying to figure out why you're even here. Well, he's right. She was fired months before the Trump-Zelensky telephone call, was never privy to the conversation. That didn't stop the legal counsel for Democrats from putting up on the big screen in a hearing room the transcript of the call and asking Yovanovitch to offer her interpretation or opinion of its contents and what the president intended. That's just conjecture. It's speculation. This is another opinion witness whose testimony is irrelevant, it's immaterial, and would be inadmissible under any rules of evidence in any courtroom in America. Her opinion and speculation.
Slow down. Hang on. We learned something. You may be wrong, Gregg Jarrett, for the first time that I can think of all the times we've had you on this show and on TV, because I learned yesterday for the first time that hearsay evidence can often be better than direct evidence. Now, I never knew that. Is that true?
And pigs fly and pixies cast spells. It's ludicrous. Hearsay, single hearsay, can be admissible if it falls under an exception. No exception applies to any of these witnesses so far. And double hearsay is a joke. Triple hearsay, is a farce. But we're getting into territory of quadruple hearsay. George Kent was the best example. He believed there was a quid pro quo because he heard it from Bill Taylor, who heard it from Tim Morrison, who heard it from Gordon Sondland, who presumed a quid pro quo. This is a coffee klatch at Starbucks. This is the chattering class of diplomats, self-important people who traffic in rumor and innuendo. And this witness today, Yovanovitch, confirmed. She has no evidence of a quid pro quo demanded by Trump. She has no direct knowledge of anything. She is a superfluous witness.
I've never seen such a colossal waste of time. I've never seen or witnessed such a one-sided, abusively corrupt and biased process, especially when something is as serious as what we're talking about, impeaching a president. And what I have been now doing, look, I'm just going to assume that I guess the 31 Democrats elected in Trump districts are probably just going to jump off the cliff because they're going to be told to jump and they're going to be stupid enough and they're going to jump. And that's why I'm asking senators, okay, I want some answers to some fundamental questions because, federal law prohibits, correct me if I'm wrong, the admissibility of hearsay evidence. And I'm asking U.S. senators if they're going to allow, if this goes into the Senate, would they support using hearsay as evidence in any trial? Now, I know that the Chief Justice ultimately rules on all of this, and I wonder if they believe in the Sixth Amendment with the right of individuals to face their accusers. I think the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution is pretty clear. But maybe I'm wrong on that, too, I guess.
Well, as I say, there are exceptions to the single hearsay rule, rarely double hearsay, but none of this triple and quadruple hearsay. So if the federal rules of evidence are invoked by Mitch McConnell at a potential Senate trial, these witnesses can't even be called to testify. Especially when there is direct evidence. And the best direct evidence is a transcript of the telephone conversation itself, where there is no evidence of pressure, a demand, a threat, a quid pro quo, corroborated by the statements of President Zelensky, who said, "This is a normal conversation. I was happy with the conversation. There was no blackmail or pressure." You know, it's impossible to have a quid pro quo if the recipient of the quid is oblivious to the quo. And that's what Zelensky and the Ukrainian government said. We didn't even know that military aid had temporarily been frozen. And in the end, it was released. He received the money. There was no concomitant investigation of Joe Biden. And so there is no such thing as a quid pro quo. Nancy Pelosi is now seamlessly shifted to, bribery. She said it, a dozen times yesterday in her news conference. She's not a lawyer. She clearly doesn't realize that bribery is a quid pro quo. And so without a quid pro quo, there's no bribery.
Well, I actually may have found their quid pro quo. I think we got it. And I got a guy that used to be the vice president that was in charge of Ukraine policy, basically quid pro quoing when he says, you're not getting the billion. You fire the prosecutor, I'll give you the billion. You don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting the billion. And you've got 6 hours to decide. And now we know that he knew the prosecutor who's leveraging our money, quid pro quo Joe, to fire the prosecutor investigating his zero, not a little bit, zero experienced son who is being paid millions and millions of dollars. So is that a quid pro quo? Is that bribery?
Yeah. Sure,
it is.
It is a quid pro quo and could be bribery under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act if his motive in withholding the $1 billion and then conveying it is to protect his son. And there is some evidence that Burisma officials were throwing around the name and influence of Hunter Biden in order to get the investigation of Burisma shut down. So there needs to be a Department of Justice investigation. I guarantee you that Lindsey Graham in the Senate will undertake an investigation of Hunter and Joe Biden. There is more than sufficient evidence to support it.
Well, I think that definitely has to happen. And, you know, just like they only cared about Trump-Russia collusion, we found out there was none. But we did have a dirty Russian dossier. They ignored that fact. We did have real obstruction with Hillary subpoenaed emails. We also had election interference with Ukraine because a DNC operative met with the Ukrainians at the Ukrainian embassy in Washington. And I know this is true because the Ukrainian court tells us so, number one. And I also know because Politico wrote about it and said they were successful in their efforts, Ukraine, to undermine Donald Trump, dig up dirt on him and associates, and to help Hillary Clinton's campaign. Now, where are all those people that used to care about foreign election interference?
Well, they're blinded by their bias. And in fact, we also have Alexandra Chalupa, the Ukrainian DNC subcontractor. We have her emails bragging about how she has solicited dirt on the Trump campaign in order to influence the election and help Hillary Clinton. And yet, you know, Yovanovitch today was unknowing of any of this and frankly probably didn't even care. You know, she is a disgruntled, fired employee, the typical self-important diplomat that inhabit foreign service. At one point she testified today, and this is a quote, "The U.S. relationship with Ukraine is the single most important relationship the United States has." Seriously?
With all due respect, no, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, these diplomats think their jobs are the most important in the world. The universe revolves around them. They've deluded themselves into believing that they are the ones who dictate foreign policy, not the president. And if President Trump dared to do something they don't like, they seek to undermine him. This is the malignant force I write about in my book. They abuse their positions of power in government to subvert the Constitution.
Gregg Jarrett is with us. We'll continue more on the other side. So real clear right, as we continue, Gregg Jarrett is with us. So I'm sitting here watching this shift show unfold, and it's not going good for the Democrats. And now, if you look at Real Clear Politics, some Democrats are now suggesting that if Adam Schiff isn't able to rescue, this Schiff show in the next couple of days, that, in fact, Pelosi may be forced to pull the plug on this. Harold Ford said, I think by Wednesday evening or perhaps Friday afternoon after the ambassador comes forward, we're going to have a much better sense of what Nancy Pelosi thinks, because I don't think that she really wants to do this. But if she does not feel the Democrats can have a sound vote, a bipartisan vote, maybe even a chance to remove a president, I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't pull this in the next several days. Any chance of that, in your view, Gregg Jarrett?
Probably a slim chance. I mean, she should, if she were doing the right thing. But, since when does Nancy Pelosi, do the right thing? What the greatest embarrassment today was when Adam Schiff read the Trump tweet, and then led the witness into saying, oh, gee, I feel intimidated. Aha! Witness intimidation. It's an article of impeachment, claims Schiff. No, witness intimidation defined by law is threatening a witness with physical harm, bribing a witness, or coercing a witness into lying. It is not witness intimidation for a president to exercise his First Amendment right of free speech, to defend himself from false accusation, or to offer an opinion of a witness. And as your friend and my friend Mark Levin pointed out, Yovanovitch wouldn't have even known of the president's tweet during the hearing but for Schiff reading it aloud to her. So this was all just a cleverly created...
I might be mistaken again, but I thought we have freedom of speech and especially a right to defend yourself if you think somebody's lying about you.
Of course you do. And that's exactly what the president was doing. He'll never get a fair shake from the liberal mainstream media, so he goes over their heads, which infuriates them, to the American people. And he makes his case. That is not witness intimidation. That's ludicrous.
All right, Greg.